Coming up, a Yupik pipeline in Alaska's biggest village. It starts early, then moves to preschool. And now to elementary school.
This is the very first Aboriginal language offered in the Anchorage School District. This is huge.
Why education experts have their eye on College Gate Elementary.
This is like a language nest. Birds that are being nurtured.
Birds that are hungry for language. Ahead, a one-of-a-kind program, part of a growing Yupik language pipeline.
Alaska, where there are old triumphs, but also new frontiers, with challenges as great as the state itself, but a belief that the best is yet to come, bringing you the faces, the places, and the spirit of the last frontier. This is Frontiers with Rhonda McBride.
Welcome to Frontiers. There are about 1.5 billion English speakers on our planet, a pretty overwhelming force, and that's why we've seen languages disappear at an alarming rate all over the world. And here in our state, except for a few, most of Alaska's 20 native languages are on the edge of extinction. The one with the most speakers, Central Yupik or Yugtun, mainly spoken in the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, population 20,000. In this region, children grow up with Yugtun as their first language in only about 17 of 68 communities. Linguists say one sure sign a language is in trouble is when children no longer speak it. So the challenge has been, how do you put more speakers into the pipeline? 5 years ago, the Cook Inlet Native Headstart program in Anchorage started a one-of-a-kind program that immerses children in both the Yupik language and the culture. The Cook Inlet Native Headstart School may seem like a lot of preschools. Children eat Cheerios, play with toys, but one thing stands out. Almost no English is spoken here, only Yugtun. 1, 2, 3, 4. Success adds up. Most of these kids come from homes where English is the dominant language, yet they seem to catch on so quickly. This is the Where Are You song. Teachers like Barbara Amos are excited about how the kids have begun to talk with each other in Yugtun. She loves it when the children come up to her and say, "Gin Gumpkin, I love you."
It's beautiful. It's very beautiful.
Teachers here believe native languages, like Yupik, carry the building blocks of culture and critical thinking.
The rules and the way of thinking are embedded in the language.
Elizabeth Hancock, a parent in the program, believes her son's daily dose of Yugtun has improved his behavior.
It's making him a better person because he's learning traditional values. He's learning how to be a human being.
Elizabeth Hancock never heard her mother and father speak their native language, so she never learned. Barbara understands why this happened. As a child, she asked her mother why she discouraged her from speaking her native language.
Tear came down her eye, and she said, "Because I don't want your teachers to slap you for speaking our language." And I didn't have anything to say.
Well, that was then, and this is now. The children receive constant praise for their use of the language. And when they go home, they teach their parents how to speak. Maybe not how it happened in the past, but definitely a step in the right direction. So cute. The Cook Inlet Native Headstart program for preschoolers was actually the first piece of the Anchorage Yupik pipeline. Then came the next part, a language immersion program for infants and toddlers. Love, safety, awareness. What it takes to survive on this land. Values woven into the language, even in this Yupik translation of an English nursery rhyme. Elders have wondered if the loss of language and culture has led to a greater loss of life, because traditionally they help to protect children and raise their awareness about the dangers in life. That's the inspiration behind the Claire Swan Center's Yupik Immersion Program for infants and toddlers. Florence Turchik is originally from Tuxuk Bay. She sings a children's song her late father composed. Florence's Yupik name is Tumaharea, a name gifted from her mother in honor of her late grandmother. It has two meanings, one who fixes things or one who makes a path. Either way, in her job here, Florence lives up to her name as she helps to bring language back to families, language that might otherwise have been lost. These toddlers keep her on the move. Florence doesn't expect answers yet. She just wants the children to absorb the sounds.
The first year of a baby's life, they're able to learn any language on earth. And so even though they can't speak, there's something happening in that brain that's allowing them to hear those sounds and to make sense of those sounds.
Florence says the children follow her instructions, a sign that they understand what she says. Most of the children's parents don't speak Yugtun, but Florence is pleased to hear, in the case of one little boy, that he tries to speak at home.
When he gives something to his parents, he'll say kita, even to us, meaning here. And when they want more, they'll say chali, chali, more. We use that a lot when we're eating.
Bye, Biura.
Arlene Fakasieki's daughter is 3. She also has a baby here. She says she's learning Yugtun for them.
We'll be home and she'll say something to me and in Yupik, and I just have to tell her, I don't know what you're saying.
She's delighted that her older daughter is able to speak Yugtun on the phone with her grandfather, who lives in Amonic.
I feel like what the children are getting here is pretty robust.
But the children are also given time to unfold at their own pace.
I think in our Western culture, if you can't keep up, then you're not a success. Whereas in the Yugtun classroom, the success is giving everybody time to be who they are.
Patience and cooperation, values that are prized in Yupik culture, values the Claire Swan Center says children are exposed to through the language. The research shows that when children grow up to speak more than one language, their brains become more nimble. For now, their parents are amazed at how fast their kids catch on.
My daughter just switched from the English class to the Yupik immersion classroom about 2 weeks ago. And she says, bicha or waka, just like bye, hello.
Like the sign says, time passes by on little children's feet. It's hard to know exactly what will take shape from the love and encouragement lavished here. No matter the language, these are words to grow by. How the Yupik language pipeline has one more partner. A look at how children at College Gate Elementary are putting back what history took away. Just as the Trans-Alaska Pipeline has problems keeping its pipeline full of oil, the Native Language Pipeline struggles to keep a steady flow of speakers. And in a lot of Alaska Native communities, only the elders are fluent enough to carry on actual conversations. Their adult children perhaps understand, but usually answer back in English. And their kids, well, they neither understand nor speak a sign that the language is on life support. So it's not easy to reverse the course of history, to put new Indigenous speakers back into the pipeline. But College Gate Elementary School in Anchorage is one of the first urban schools in the nation to give it a try. August 27th, 2018. A new chapter in Anchorage School District history.
I'm excited, a little bit nervous.
Lorena Warren will teach the district's first ever Yupik Immersion kindergarten class.
It's a long time coming.
Lorena wants to make sure all of the children have Yupik names. She's made a list of Yupik elders who recently passed.
I wrote down their names.
Names like Chikagok or Ayaganar. Names that will connect them to the community.
Good morning, College Gate. Happy Monday, and a huge welcome to our newest College Gate members, our kindergartners.
Come, says Lorena. Even if her students don't understand just yet, they'll soon figure it out. Lorena gets right down to business.
Chow yak. Chow yak. Chow yak atutukput.
The children seem to understand right away that the drum is the heartbeat of Yupik culture. And the next thing you know, they're dancing. The first day of kindergarten is always special, but for Alaska Native educators, this is a watershed moment.
This is the very first Aboriginal language offered in the Anchorage School District. This is huge.
Daryl Burnson is from Old Harbor, a Supiaq community on Kodiak Island, where the community had to depend on a handful of elders to teach the language and develop their own classroom materials.
I know what it's like to start from ground zero. We don't have to start from scratch.
The College Gate program has ready-made books and teaching materials, thanks to the Yupik Immersion program in Bethel, the fruits of more than 3 decades of hard work.
This is a dream come true.
Doreen Brown says it wasn't easy.
A lot of different groups from all over the country have been pushing and pushing and pushing, advocating for Native languages to be taught in our schools.
In my wildest dreams, never thought it would be taught here.
Sherry Cawley says she's proud to have her grandson, Trishelle, in the first Yupik Immersion kindergarten.
I understand the language, but I can't speak it.
Many find this puzzling. Sherry teaches here at College Gate.
Were any of you able to go back and ask about your culture?
The daughter of 2 Yupik educators who were fluent speakers but did not pass their language on to their children.
Chug, 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 puff, puff, puff. Ding dong, ding dong. The little train rumbled over the tracks. She was a happy little train.
Sherry Cawley's grandson, Trishelle, has his great-grandfather's Yupik name, Anayukuk. His English name was Oscar Kawagley, who taught at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, where he developed the landmark Native Ways of Knowing program, which integrated traditional knowledge with modern science. Sherry even took one of his courses and was shocked to learn why he did not teach his children Yugtun.
He's explained that he became ashamed for a while of being Yupik Eskimo. And I started crying.
Until that moment, she always thought she wasn't taught her native language because she grew up mostly in Anchorage.
I know he used to tell me they used to get rapped on the knuckles for speaking Yupik.
Sherry says her father would be glad to know that his namesake has nothing to fear anymore.
I think it's kind of ironic that it went from being punished in schools for speaking Yupik to where we're now finally having it taught in our biggest village, Anchorage. He would have been ecstatic and so proud because I feel like that's what he's always been striving for.
Good morning, staff and students.
It's now the end of the school year. The kindergartners' turn to start the school day.
United States of Berlin.
In just one school year, these kids have come a long way. They've mastered some of the building blocks of Yugtun and sometimes can be heard out on the playground in conversation.
These children are like sponges. They're speaking in sentences. They're tattling on each other.
Lorena says their progress has exceeded her expectations.
That's what pulls my strings, to hear these kids speak on their own.
The children have learned to recite the Yuyahak, Yupik words to live by, that encourage respect for yourself, others, and the world around you.
I can't imagine why any parent wouldn't want their kid in that class, regardless of their heritage.
National education experts like Martha Bigelow are impressed with how this immersion program has incorporated Yupik values.
They're loved and cared for as if they are the children of the teachers here. That is unique. That is very different.
Different because language is more than about words, but speaks to a way of life, as in this song about a successful hunt. Every day at College Gate is like a hunt, where children chase down new words, new concepts, yet remain kids at heart. Up next, pipelines and partnerships. Ethan Pettigrew and Brandon Locke join us to talk about the kind of teamwork it takes to build Anchorage's first Indigenous language pipeline. They say many hands make light work, just as many partnerships make many things possible. And joining us to talk about that, Ethan Pettigrew, head of the Cook Inlet Native Headstart program, and Brandon Locke with the Anchorage School District. You have a big job, the Director of World Languages and Immersion Programs. So a lot is going on, and this is a small slice of the pie. Let's start off, Ethan, by talking about some of the partners that you've had and how unusual that is.
I think in order for us to make this work, we realized early on we needed partnerships. Otherwise, we would just become an isolated little pocket of language. So our important partners are, of course, Anchorage School District, because our children move on. They needed a place to go. We didn't want to hear the same story our grandparents said. Our language was killed when we went to school. So ASD, obviously, Anchorage School District, a very important partner, as well as Claire Swan Early Learning Center is another partner we have, because they do the 0 to 3-year-old children with the language immersion. So, and I think that's where the concept of the pipeline started, was that now we have the ability for children to enter in several weeks after birth, be immersed in Yupik language, and at this point travel, I believe, all into ASD at kindergarten, first grade levels.
How about from the ASD perspective? I mean, how unusual is it to get all these players and even national players involved?
Absolutely. They say timing is everything, and really with the 2 preschool programs, it did provide a natural pipeline. And our plan, just like our other language immersion programs, is to continue this all the way up through the end of high school.
So this is still very new. What's it like now to be getting the toddlers moving into your Head Start program?
I think it's really exciting to see this progression, and we still have some issues we're working on as far as, because we're not the same organizations and enrollment issues, and because we're Head Starts, we have income issues and things we have to deal with, but it's wonderful seeing those kids come in from that program into ours and already having a really good understanding, actually, at their age, at that young age, 3 years old, of Yugtun. And then what I'm really excited about is getting together with Brandon in the future and comparing where are our kids that have moved on to ASD all the way up to 3rd grade. I'd love to keep tracking them and see where they're going and beyond when they establish.
Now, I was talking to one of your evaluators, and she said one of the big surprises for her is that this program has a large percentage of non-natives that are sending their kids through this. Did that surprise you?
To a certain extent, yes, but I was looking at the numbers, and about 50% of the students in the program, in the ASD program, are non-native and represent Caucasian, African American, Hispanic. And we do have a lot of Native students that are not Yupik, but are Alaska Native.
And so they would prefer to have something
Yeah.
Native for their children. So, so many unknowns in this. How do you track something like this, that really hasn't been done before?
Well, a lot of our immersion programs actually did start with grant funds. This one is unique in that the grant offering was specific for Alaska Native or American Indian languages. And so we were able to receive initial startup funding with a 3-year grant. But again, we plan to continue the program. We just need a constant set of new kindergartners to enter every year. But our plan is to sustain the program, like I said, up until the end of high school.
So this is something, though, that is going to take some funding.
Absolutely.
To do this.
Yep.
Can the district do this, especially in our current climate?
Yeah, we do have some budget issues, that's for sure. But again, it goes back to enrollment. If we have the students in the program, the students have to be in a classroom somewhere, so it doesn't matter if they're in an English-speaking classroom or a Yupik-speaking classroom. If we have the number of students, we will provide them. The nice thing about immersion is that we're providing them the core academic content that any kindergartner or first grader would receive. They're just getting it in both Yupik and in English.
So there are a lot of eyeballs all over the world on this.
There are.
In some ways. You've had some Ainu visitors from Japan come.
Just earlier this month, we had a group of, actually they came over with our Japanese immersion program and visited Sand Lake, but the Ainu are a Japanese indigenous group on the northern island of Hokkaido, and they came over and visited our program and were very, very impressed. And it was a really moving experience because this language revitalization for them is a very brand new concept. And so them being able to see something already in place was, I think, very emotional for them.
So this is a pioneering program. What was your big aha moment in this?
My big aha moment has been no matter what, and just looking at our program, Claire Swan and ASPs, and then traveling to different immersion programs across the lower 48, different indigenous programs, the behavior of children in the classrooms, I think, and it goes back to what you heard earlier on this program, that the way of being that our indigenous languages have inherently built in them. They teach us the ways that we need to react within our environment that we're living in. And I think our languages were created in these specific environments. So the way of being and the behavior in the classroom is so much more calm than indigenous children in a English-speaking classroom.
So let's end on one word here. I want to show this on the screen. This is a Yupik phrase. It means, I love you. Kinkumpkin. And really, isn't it all about love?
It is.
It is. It's all about love. Love for our children.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, thank you both for joining us. Something to watch as the Yupik language pipeline keeps moving further down the line. We leave you now with a performance of the College Gate Yupik immersion students. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.